Namaste, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Louisa and I am speaking today about a topic that's probably been in a long time coming. I received a question from a beautiful lady who had been watching some of my material, especially my video on mental illness and ascension, which is a rooster. Sorry. It's a two-part video series, which I'll link below. We're being helped with rooster medicine this morning. My rooster Agni has decided that he also wants to be heard on camera. And that's Merlin. So I'm going to kind of do this Q&A style. I will read out some of this lady's question just to give it some context, and then I will answer it as best I can. So there's kind of two parts to the lady's question. She actually sent 2 emails because one question is around medication for mental illness and how it affects our ascension and rise in consciousness, and the other question was a similar vein but to do with injections against viruses. So she writes, I'm on medication for, and then her conditions, and the medication controls things very well. The thing is, if I try to come off the medication, I lapse into psychosis. I've done a lot of internal work on myself, but now am worried about if my mental illness will stop me from ascending. Will it stop me from developing my light body and becoming multidimensional? Will it prevent me from moving to 5th dimension? I'm of the understanding when planet Earth ascends and those doing the work to ascend on the new Earth, then there will be no sickness. This leaves me asking what will happen to me as I need pharmaceutical medication. Will we still have doctors, or will everyone who has ascended be 100% healthy? I'm deeply worried about my ability to ascend due to me having mental illnesses, and I was hoping you could answer my questions. I still feel connected to the universe and still get signs and synchronicities for my spiritual path, but I feel my intuition is stifled and blocked somewhat due to pharmaceutical medication I take, which blocks the right hemisphere of the brain. Okay, so that's the first part, and I will talk to that specifically. So psychotropic medications for mental illness, and also more broadly, this lady has asked if my mental illness itself will prevent the ascension, which are kind of 2 separate things. We could tease that out a bit, so perhaps we'll do so. The first thing I want to say about, I'll address the mental illness first, and just say that no, any kind of illness, this is, by the way, I must preface this before I launch into my thoughts on the subject, that what I'm offering here today is only my thoughts. We are getting to the point in our consciousness as human beings where we must take responsibility for our own truth. So that means developing the inner radar to listen to what is true for you and what isn't. And that is going to be different for absolutely every person. So I'm only offering a filtered, I have a filter, and that's my biases, my understanding that I've developed to date, my ego, my gender, all of that stuff is my filter. And what I'm offering to you, unfortunately, is coming through that filter. And that is the way of being on this planet. And it's also the way in the higher dimensions, but it does get less deceptive and less distorted the higher you go in frequency, if that makes sense. So when we're listening for truth, we're actually looking for a high frequency, and we can feel it in our bodies. Our minds will also register it potentially, but it's actually more, I think, reliable source of information to tune into the body. how does this information feel? And one of the yardsticks I've always used to help me discern truth is to think about, does this truth that's being presented, does it make me feel expanded, right? In some way relieved, opened. And that might be also joyful, happy, but not always. Sometimes the truth can actually bring up uncomfortable feelings. But there will be something in it which will kind of make you go, oh, you'll just feel it as a sort of a relaxing. Whereas something that is not true for you, or at least it's interference in your way of operating in the world, it's going to feel very constricted. You're going to feel tension, tightness, a fear, and a kind of a discomfort. So that's probably the best way that I can explain that. And then usually when we have those feelings, our mind hooks into it and tells a big, long, rambly story about what we need to do to avoid this terrible thing, this terrible truth. All of it must be put in quotation marks. So that's my preface, is to say, please listen in for whether this serves you or not. I have done my best to present the highest wisdom that I can at this time, based on my own knowing, information that I've been receiving by following others on this subject matter, other channelers that I regard very highly, and I think their information is very undistorted and very accurate. As well as this morning I sat down and I tuned into my guidance to ask specifically this question. So that's my big forward. Okay, so what I've got here is that my first thought is that mental illness, and any illness in and of itself, is not preventing ascension at all. In fact, illnesses are sometimes the very catalyst that pushes us into ascension. And it's probably an error of the egoic mind to think that just because we're ill, or maybe it's not even ill, maybe it's just feeling funky or emotionally down, or or things are going wrong in your life, anything that you perceive as unwanted, is not a sign that you're off your path. Sometimes it's actually a sign that you're on your path, because it's, as we grow and evolve, we just have to go through periods of suffering in order, as a kind of a purification. It's like being forged in a fire, right? If you can imagine the pure essence of ourselves as being this diamond within, but there's layers and layers and layers of ego and karma and energetic distortions that have to be gradually peeled away. And sometimes illness is actually the catalyst that allows us to do that. So certainly for me, and I've spoken about this in videos before, my mental illness was a gateway, a portal into my higher spiritual evolution, my next version of myself. So no, I don't think illness of any type is preventing anyone from ascending. That said, the illness itself is calling you to do work, and that's why it's a catalyst. So we can't just kind of drift, floating around, not doing anything about this situation that we have. It might be that we just have to learn to manage it, but how do we manage it? What choices are we making around that illness presentation? That is going to be the key. It's, what is assisting everybody to ascend is, what are your intentions? So what are you visioning and wanting for yourself and the rest of humanity? And how aligned are your actions to those intentions? So for example, if you want to be a beacon of love in the world, right, and you have a mental illness, the question will be, how loving are you towards yourself as you're going through this illness? How kind, unconditionally kind and compassionate are you? Or are you beating yourself up all the time because you're wrong or doing it, or you're ill, or you're broken, or you're weak, those sorts of thoughts. So if you are managing and working with your own mental illness in a way that reflects what you actually want to create in this world, as in be the change you want to see, then your illness will serve you in ascension. It will not prevent you. It will actually serve you to rise up in consciousness. So that's the first thing I need to say. Then regarding medication, and this is a really tricky one because I understand, I've been on lots of medication before, and I understand what this lady was saying about I still feel connected to the universe and I get signs and synchronicities for my spiritual path, but I feel my intuition is stifled, blocked somewhat due to the pharmaceutical medication, which blocks the right hemisphere of the brain. Okay, I hadn't heard that, but I have heard that it does block chakra systems. So our energetic portals that allow us to connect to our environment, other human beings, the great energy field that we all walk around in, as well as the subtle realms. These chakras, energy vortices are our channels, the way we sort of plug into different realities and different experiences. So, and you know that you will hear sometimes also that it shuts down the third eye, which is one of those chakra points, those vortices, which allows us to see higher consciousnesses, see into subtle realms. Our psychic abilities are operating through that chakra, as well as in tandem with all the other ones, I think. I'm not a chakra expert, but that's my rudimentary understanding. So my sense was always that, yes, there was a sort of a shutting down of those portals. And but again, it's to do with your intentions. How are you going to use this to serve you? This is always the question. And for a time, when I was experiencing my mental health issues, my psychoses especially, I probably needed them to be shut down. I was receiving, psychoses are expanded states of consciousness, but they're coming from lower frequencies, or they're allowing the entry of lower frequency energy to come into your experience. And it was a floodgate. I was so expanded that so many things were entering, and really shutting everything down was probably the best option for me. Maybe in a shamanic culture in some village somewhere in Africa, it would have been handled very differently, and I could have tempered that intense experience with some other kind of medicine, natural medicine. But I did search around. I was 3 months in a full psychosis without any medication, trying my very best to ground, and I just couldn't get there with the tools that I had at the time and the supports around me. So I utilized medication to shut everything down. That's not how I would have framed it at the time. At the time, I was just desperate, to kind of put myself back together, because I felt like there was fragments of me floating around in the ether, and I didn't know who I was. It's a total ego dissolution when you're going through something like that. It's very frightening, etc., and it's disturbing for people around you. So the medication served to sort of put me back together, and to the point where I could then make some conscious choices, because I was not in conscious control at that point of the height of the psychosis. So I needed to bring myself back together, to shut down some of that intense energy, to take a big deep breath and figure out what to do. Now that's how I've rationalized it for a long time, but as I speak to you, I see even a higher purpose for all of that, and that was I believe I needed to go through the mental health system in its traditional way. So in other words, medications, hospitals, therapies, doctors, nurses, the whole shebang. I had to do that because I ended up becoming a peer educator in the mental health space and working with people. And that's how I started to develop my counseling skills and my body of knowledge. And I also challenged a lot of the things that I saw going on. So it's a big part of my lived experience that I can still offer as a tool for others to help them on their path. Divine purpose to absolutely everything. The medication had its purpose. There was also times when I tried to jump off the medication too quickly. I wasn't ready yet. It was a kind of a spontaneous, but I want to be well, kind of very unthought out plan. And I suffered for that. It was would bring back psychoses. Now this lady has mentioned that when she tries to come off her medication, she lapses into psychoses. I'm also going to post a link to my other video called How I Got Off Psych Meds. Again, it's just my experience, but there's some resources in that as well. The biggest message is to say to do it very slowly, because if you don't do it slowly, what can happen is things like psychosis can return. And it's not, I don't believe, it's not necessarily because you're unwell. I mean, maybe that is the truth that you're exploring, that you feel like you really do have a major mental illness, and I don't want to disregard your truth, but I do want to say that the brain adjusts to these medications in such a way that coming off them does require a long process. You know, it's not a quick and easy thing to do, because not only do we have to allow our brain and body to adjust, but we also have to cope with a lot of the intense emotions and the energies that come in when we don't have those medications. So think of those medications as a kind of a cotton wool, a cocoon that you're in. It's protective, you know, that's a lot of the intentions of why people take them. It's to protect themselves, to muffle, to drown out those intense experiences and stimuli that are coming from the external world. So if you're going to take off that cocoon, you have to be ready, right? And there's a lot of preparation that goes into it. It's absolutely a wonderful goal, and I encourage you to go for it. But, you know, I will say on the point of, you know, the medications blocking and stifling intuition, that I'm now medication free, and the lady is correct, I think, is that being without medication certainly does enhance my intuition, but it also enhances the my sensitivity to the stimulus. So I've got to have really good self-care strategies, really good grounding protocols, really good ways to support myself so I don't lose my balance. Yeah, and that's the whole point of what I'm trying to say here, is that it may be that medications are containing you and protecting you at the moment. Will they prevent ascension? So I don't, like I said, I think this is, I can't answer this for anybody. The only person that can answer this is you. I think prevention is way too strong a word. I think they can hinder it at a certain point. Now, what that point is going to be different for everybody, but I will make this point, which hopefully will sum it up, that at some point on your ascension journey, your actions have to match your intentions, right? So that's the first thing. So if your intention is, let's say you've had a bout of extreme mental illness issues, and your intention is to get your life back together again so that you can function well in the world and you can stabilize and ground and maybe do some therapy, let's just give that example, right? Then taking the medication is aligned with that intention to be well, right? Therefore, I don't see the medications hampering your ascension at that point. Everything is always changing, remember, but for that period of time, there is a really good reason why you're taking the medications, and they are aligned with your intention to be well. However, this is the nuances that you must consider. At some point, you might get well enough that you start to realize that the medications are not serving your next stage of growth, right? It's as if they create a kind of a ceiling that we bump up against, and we feel that. It's like, I am stable now, but can I grow? You see? And we go through cycles of stability and growth, stability and growth, stability and growth. So if you're at the point where you're actually stable now, you've done a lot of work, and you're sensing that your intention may be, I want to expand now into higher states of consciousness, but you know in your heart that those medications are hindering you, that's when the problem arises. That's when you need to take action. As I said there, your actions have to match your intentions. So if your intentions is to raise your consciousness, and you strongly feel that the medications are interfering, then that would be a good reason to start to get off them, right? Now, this can be said, and I want to remind people that this can be said for absolutely anything on our planet that is interfering with your ability to raise in frequency. The world is awash with negative things that you can pick up and put in your body or do or watch. I'm talking about like all sorts of environmental things that we engage with, right? So it could be TV, binge watching junk TV. This is, you are consuming media that is leaving an impression on your mental, emotional body, and your whole being, really, but especially your mental and emotional body. And that is, bringing you down in frequency. How does it make me feel when I do that? This is what you have to ask for absolutely everything. So we can put all of the more self-destructive behaviors in this same basket. Alcohol is a good one, because so many people do drink it and enjoy it because it helps them relax. But at some point they start to notice that, it would be better for me. I feel I would be more pure, or just more, more pure is a good word. That's always the word that I remember when, because I've had to get off all sorts of things. I had to get off alcohol, many addictions, to marijuana early on in my life. I had a bit of an eating disorder for a while. I got addicted to kickboxing and exercise. Like, even something like exercise, which is supposedly healthy, can get out of balance. And I always knew, if I was really, really honest with myself, what was hindering my progress. So this is what you have to check in with yourself about. What habits do I have? What things am I consuming? Alcohol, cigarettes, medications, whatever it is. And is it not in alignment with my growth at the moment? Now I'll give you a benign example that will, comes from the humble experience of my life, which is that coffee, right? I hear so many spiritual teachers talking about coffee as being, having a really negative effect on the energy field, and it's a poison and a toxin and all this kind of stuff. Sugar is another one too. But let's focus on coffee for the moment. In fact, I managed to combine these two sins because I have coffee with one sugar. Now, I've been told that it's bad for me, and maybe I should not be drinking it because I'm on an ascension path. But when I check in with myself, I don't get that message at all to stop coffee. What I do is, at the moment, the choice is aligned with my intentions, because I drink only quite fancy, organic, fair trade coffee. I grind my own beans in the morning. The whole thing is this beautiful ritual that I really enjoy and brings me so much happiness. I choose like a high quality organic coconut sugar. And when I have my coffee, I sit out here on my little veranda. This is where I'm sitting right now. I just had my coffee before I started my video. I sit out here and I enjoy the forest. I enjoy the birds and the trees and my environment. And so all of those things combined, my intentions and all the little actions, the choices that I'm making around the consuming of coffee, raise it to a certain frequency where right now it is benefiting me. I do still suffer from, depression, not serious deep depression, but I find that caffeine is an antidepressant for me. So, and it is a plant medicine. All of our plants are medicines. They've been given to us by the earth. So I think if used appropriately, there's nothing wrong with them at all. But one day I might find that my body just can't tolerate caffeine anymore because I've purified my vessel to that degree that it's, and I'll know because I'll start to feel yuck on it. And maybe that's, another, going back to sort of how do you know, is just feel how your body is reacting to something. This is really important information. Be really honest with yourself about all of this, so that you can, work with your highest alignment. Okay. You're always doing your best, and that's also something I really want to share with you. I don't want people to feel bad about taking medications or drinking coffee or even being addicted to terrible, very highly addictive drugs like meth and so forth. Wherever you are right now, you're doing your best. And if you dwell in a sort of state of regret. Oh my gosh, look how much I've stuffed this up. I should never have done all this stuff. If you dwell there, you're only going to compound the trauma that you've already experienced. That's probably what caused you to do all that stuff in the first place. So don't add to your load. Try to find a voice of compassion within that, is honest to say, I know right now I'm not doing the thing that's in my highest alignment. I'm also going to love myself through this process as I work out how to get back into alignment. One of the things I love about this term that we now use a lot, which is being in alignment or out of alignment, is it's very neutral. It's not like you're being bad or good. It's just that there are choices that are higher, as in they will make you feel in a higher vibration, and because of that they will serve the greater good. And there is choices which are in a lower vibration, and that's also serving. That's always serving. Everything is serving. Medication is serving. Evil deeds are serving. If you want to have a look at my last video, Evolving is Dissolving, I talk a bit more about that, how everything is benefiting everything. And if something is so-called negative, it's only going to serve to push you into a more positive polarization, to make better choices. That's what it's there for. And sometimes some of us have to get to rock bottom with our backs against the wall before we will finally drop that thing and just go, you know what? I'm going to make a different choice this time. That was how I quit alcohol. I went to rock bottom. And it was a very, very tough time in my life. It was about 3 months of, trying to quit and finally doing it. And then, but the rock bottom that I reached was a total surrender to God one night, when I had tried for like 3 or 4 times to get to, I had a figure in my head which was 14 days. I've got to get to 14 days of sobriety. And I finally managed to get to 13 days, and then I went out and bought a bottle of red wine, drank it, felt so bad, and that was when I collapsed on the floor and I just said, I can't do this alone. God. I called out to God, and I didn't even believe in God at this stage. It's like 2006 now. And the next morning, I'm cutting a very long story short, but the next morning I woke up in a state of bliss and a sense of deep love for myself and the universe. And it was a grace given period of enlightenment for me. I don't feel I wanted that or willed it. I just surrendered and I asked, I begged for it, and it was given to me, and it was a big turning point in my life. So maybe you can see how a dark night of the soul can push us into the light, and on a more minor scale, any of the negative things that are happening in our life also serve to push us. But the challenge is, will we overcome our fear to be pushed? Will we allow ourselves to be pushed? Will we jump off that cliff into the unknown? And for you, that might be quitting something that you're doing, including medications. Okay. So that's the point I wanted to make about the medications. Now I'm going to just also talk about other medical treatments, including injections for viruses. So this lady writes, it's the same lady. She says, even though I've been on a spiritual path for many years, due to mental illness, I guess I was not fully in touch with spirit or the universe when I got the injection for the virus. I guess I was not fully trusting. She goes on to explain some personal reasons why she did that. And then she says, I actually don't know how to proceed forward now, except to trust in the universe that everything will be okay. I feel I've dishonored my spiritual path and my integrity. I don't know how to undo what I've done with getting the virus injection. Any words of comfort would be appreciated. Okay, so this is it's linked to this topic, which is why I put it in the same video, but it is got some unique attributes to it. So what I understand of this, and again, it's just my opinion, based on my own knowing, the information I've received from other spiritual teachers that I admire and think are, really authentic, as well as some channel material from this morning, which I'll share with you in a minute. That this injection has presented itself as what Magenta Pixie calls a choice point for people. A choice point to tune into themselves and their own bodily needs and what feels right or wrong for them, and to choose to act from love, and to choose to honor both sides, because the virus injection has polarized our society dramatically. People believing in it, people hating it, anti it, right? Anti and for, the polarization. So it's a choice point to respect diversity of views and to love everybody through this process, even if people are angry with you or disagreeing with you. And it's a choice point to be sovereign. So to choose from your free will, not because you felt in fear or you felt coerced or pressured by anybody else. So in a sense, I view it as a spiritual test, an ultimate spiritual test. I mean, it's incredibly clever when I think about it, incredibly clever. And I want to remind everybody that from the higher perspective, we have designed this choice point for ourselves. Humanity has designed it. We can trace it back to blaming it on, certain people who created it in the first place, or is it a bioweapon, or also higher realms, archonic forces that have infiltrated humanity and hijacked our matrix and try to control us and all of this stuff. And I'm not saying that stuff isn't true, but I always want to go to the highest perspective, which is that ultimately we have created this as a part of our own evolution, as a collective consciousness. All right. So it's the end of a natural cycle here, the 26,000 year cycle, and I'm going to link to another video I made called A Gentle Guide to Awakening, which explains this, the gist of this. And this end times that the Christians also talk about, many different traditions have got different names for this time. The end times is, the day of judgment. It's when we get tested, all of us together. Now, I'm not going to say whether taking the injection you should or you shouldn't. And the reason for that is because the choices are way too complex and individual to say whether you should and you shouldn't. As I said, my personal belief is the choice point is actually more around, did you act in alignment with your own integrity? And did you act from a place of love? That's more important about whether you did or you didn't. Okay. That said, I also understand that there are some dangers with this injection, this virus injection, in terms of the body, and some very serious ones. And I'm not going to go into them here because it's not my place. I'm not a medical practitioner. I'm just an ordinary someone who's been doing some research. That's what I counsel you to do. Do your research. Check in with yourself. Have I gone out of alignment with my intentions and my sovereignty and my free will and my love? If I did so, can I correct it? And that's what this lady's saying, because she felt it was a mistake for her. So speaking to those people, I asked Spirit this morning because I felt I knew the answers, but I wanted to be really clear for you guys, and make sure that my information is as high as I can get it for you. So this is what was said to me by spirit guides. They say that basically talking about someone who's taken it and now regrets it. The phrase "unwind the choice point" came to me. Unwind the choice point. At the same time, they gave me a visualization of a road, and imagine the choice point as being where there's a fork in the road, right? You can either you take the virus injection and you go one way, and that way, that road that you're choosing when you take the virus injection is that the road of I guess it's like the way the world has always been, right? Believing what other people tell you, allowing medical doctors to be the experts of your body, and and there'll be all sorts of reasons why you did it, which might be very in alignment with your values, but it nonetheless is a road of, I guess, giving up your health sovereignty, if we just want to explain it that way. The other road of not taking it, the other choice point, is a road to health sovereignty. I'm just going to leave it at that, okay? Now, if you've taken the virus injection, the road to self-sovereignty, Spirit showed it to me like there's a gate there now, right? There's a gate. It was open before, and now there's a gate. This doesn't mean it's shut to you. It just that there's a gate. That's the message that Spirit was giving me. So Spirit also showed me that at this gate now, for these people who have taken it but regret it, there are healers and helpers assigned to this role to help you. Healers and helpers, other human beings, right? And they will meet you at the gate. The choice point consists of accumulative choices to give away your power. So that's what they're talking about, unwinding it. It's not just one choice you made. It's many, many choices that that you did prior to that for potentially your entire lifetime, right? But certainly in the last, 5 to 10 years, each of us has been making choices about these kinds of things that is then going to inform the ultimate choice that we made about the virus injection. So you may need to do some unwinding, some deprogramming of all of your choice points. Why do you make the choices you do? This is a great question. Do you do it from your heart? Do you do it from your own knowledge? Or do you do it just because somebody tells you to do it? So the choice point consists of accumulative choices and to give away your power. The remedy, this is the good news, the remedy is to take back your power. That's it. That's simple, right? If you're not used to doing that, it's still challenging, right? But it is, what I love about the messages from Spirit is they're so, the universe is so complex, and yet answers are often so simple, right? So you get to take back your power, and you can do this. Consult your own heart about what you need to heal. Follow your own guidance. Seek answers from others, and request help. Do the work. Well, there's a lot in there, isn't it? And it sounds a bit conflicting because consult your own heart, and then it also says seek answers and request help. So it's going to be a combination, right? It's a misnomer, I think, to think that health sovereignty means you don't get any help, that you just lie, meditate, and heal everything in your body, right? We still need help, but the key is where did that seeking come from? Was it your own GPS telling you to go and see that particular person, or was it just a sort of an automatic pilot programmed response? That's the key. So once you have set your intention, you will then be led, right, to the right healer, the right help. And that person doesn't do the fixing for you. That person facilitates you to heal. And that might be through the use of medicines, prayer, light, med beds, whatever, bio beds. There's all sorts of interesting technologies now becoming available to help us heal. And the last thing was do the work. You're the one that still has to take that medication, clean up your diet, lie on the amethyst crystal bed for half an hour every day or whatever it is. Yeah. Then the Spirit says, dedication to this task will result in success. God is merciful when we ask for forgiveness. Now that was an interesting phrase because my guides don't usually use religious language, but I'm just going to trust that there are some viewers out here that, needed to hear that phrase. God is merciful when we ask for forgiveness. And I don't know, it'll have different connotations for different people. I think forgiveness, some of that terminology from the Christian, from the Bible, can sound a little bit damning, like you've done something wrong and you must not now ask for forgiveness and this external being will grant you it. I would interpret that in a more new paradigm way by saying the universe is merciful when you request help, because asking for forgiveness is requesting help. It's just a different way of phrasing it. It's saying, I'm not happy with this choice that I've made and I would now like to change it. Yeah, that's a way of asking for forgiveness in the old terminology. And then Spirit says, you have not made a mistake. You are here in service to take up this sacred task. So that's really important to know as well. Don't beat yourself up for this. Magenta Pixie, again, I'm gonna link her videos as well because they're pretty cryptic to watch if you've never watched her before. She talks a lot in code, but she does talk about these certain amount of souls on Earth who have taken the virus injection and will now be of service by cleansing it out of their bodies and assisting a relatively small group of people who wish to do this on the planet, right? So this is, you are here in service to take up the sacred task before you. They emphasize that it isn't easy, but it's possible. So, thank you for doing that. And then they said, you have everything you need. You have everything you need. If you are enacting your sacred task, then you will have everything you need. That's how beautiful the universe is. Then they went on to say, when you have healed yourself, you will become a helper and healer at the gate, right? So there's that gate again at the choice point. As one of the people who've healed yourselves, you're going to stand at that gate and help others. Repentance. Forgive yourself. You are always doing your best. Sometimes you hide information or knowledge from yourself so you can enact your destiny. If you knew everything, your destiny would not unfold. So what if, rather than making a mistake, what happened is you hid knowledge and information from yourself on purpose so that you could fulfill the sacred destiny of healing yourself from any damage that these injections have caused you? Or in my case, it was the same thing. I mean, why did I go through the medical model system? I don't beat myself up for that. Sure, it maybe would have been a shortcut to go to a shamanic village. But would it have been? I mean, it wasn't my destiny. My destiny was to be born in a Western society, to have nobody around me to support my psychosis experiences, and to go through that. And I don't regret it at all. Like this says, I think it's like, we come here limited on purpose. And if we knew everything, we wouldn't actually take the little human steps we need to take while we're in these bodies to go about our business. Half the time we're doing things in service of the greater good, and we have no idea we're doing it. A little chat we have with somebody in the supermarket, or just bringing our light energy and our love wherever we go, walking around. Often that's our service. So, yeah. Okay. Then they go on to say, take full responsibility. Do not blame anyone or anything else. And this goes back to this key about the remedy is to take back your power. So that, I think, is going to be really critical. And the souls that manage to do this sacred task are high souls, like they're old souls. That's what I mean by high, just old, expanded. Like they come in with knowledge, with deep, deep wisdom. And one of the deep wisdoms that I have learned on my journey is that we must take responsibility for our lives, for our creations. And, it is a co-creation, because you are working with spirit and you are working in this realm where things are not always in your control, it seems, but your responses are in your control. And as you proceed more and more on this path of sovereignty, you begin to understand that your external world is a mirror. to your internal world, and therein lies your power. I will be making a video very soon on that. So take full responsibility. Do not blame anyone or anything else. Very important. The darkest and most difficult challenges reap the greatest rewards. You are blessed, you are loved, you are divine. We salute your courage. We honour every step you take on your earthly journey. We are grateful for your service. We are here with you. Yours in love, Elohim. Elohim are the beings that I frequently channel, or they come through. I understand them to be, out of all the contacts that I have in the higher realms, they are the beings that are closest to Prime Source Creator, the creation beings. They are us as well. All of our ancestral roots, our timelines, our soul fragments go back to Elohim and ultimately Prime Source Creator. So you're never separate from that, and your mission here is very, very much needed. So whatever you're doing, wherever you are right now, just know that you're serving your mission. You're exactly where you're meant to be. And if it looks like you took a wrong path, just change your perspective and look at it and go, well, there's no such thing as a wrong path. And perhaps this is exactly the thing that I need to push me into my sovereignty, to push me into taking my power, and then hopefully serving and helping other people to do the same. And that's how we're getting out of this mess, right? this grand mess. And I'm not talking about COVID mess or any other, current affairs on the planet. I'm talking about, the cycles of trauma and lower frequency and miscreations, distortions that humans have created on this planet. Seeking remedy in a pill when it's so different, because when you work with a plant medicine, the plant, the natural healers will tell you it's not the plant that's doing it for you, it's doing it with you. It's your intention, it's your ability to intend healing and be respectful of your body and all of those things that go into it. So we're not so off the mark, there's plenty of things about the human creation that are beneficial, and I know I'd be the first to reach for like a really strong synthetic painkiller if I was in a car accident or something and I was in extreme pain. Then they're not all bad. It's not black and white. This universe is a game of perception. How are you going to perceive that thing? And that's what really counts. So coming all the way back then to your own experiences of whether you're taking the medications or medical treatments, are they interfering with your ascension path? The answer is within you. Right now, you've got to check in with yourself about that, and you will get an answer. And then once you have your answer and you say, right, well, I intend for myself to expand in consciousness, to be purified, to be healed, to work with greater and greater quotients of love and light, then you begin to call that in. You begin to meditate on it, pray on it, intend whatever your rituals are every day, working consciously with your higher self or spirit. When we do that, we meet our spirit halfway, and spirit responds with in the most magical ways. People will pop up in your life and you'll get the answers. Follow that. This is the magic of living in this realm at this time. So, allow your spirit of curiosity and adventure to come out around us. Let the universe show you how to solve this puzzle, how to untangle anything that is no longer serving you, and let it go. And you will be helped. You will absolutely be helped. speaking of which, I hope that this has helped. And it's a very long video, but it was a big topic. It's a complex topic. And yeah, as always, I honour every single one of you and whatever choices you've made. I hold no judgment at all, because I can see how everything is serving us in this amazing time on earth. And I'm sending you so many blessings and love, and yeah, I hope that your journey is blessed.